Kevin, did you know that courage in analytics doesn't necessarily mean having the right data? It means asking the hard questions more than once. If you're working with senior leadership, in this case, let's say the president of a company, how many times would you go to bat if you felt that this person did not make the right data decision?
I happen to have an experience that tells me apparently I'll do it 3 times. I was the project lead trying to get projects live in a big financial services company, and my VP had said, help me with this process. I said, okay, I've got this thing I'll do. I'll offer the project and see who wants to sponsor it. If it's sponsored by one of the executives, it goes live. We did that. We put them on the wall. Executives went and grabbed them. There were 4 or 5 on the wall that weren't going anywhere. And Pat, my boss, said, Kevin, put number 2 there in the hopper and that'll go live. And I said, no problem. Who's sponsor number 2 here? No takers. I said, no takers, Pat. We can't put it in the hopper. It can't go live. She said, it's okay. Put it in the hopper. I said, okay. We were pretty clear with everybody that it had to have a sponsor. Last call. Anybody want to sponsor this? Maybe, Pat, you want to sponsor. No, I won't sponsor it, but it needs to go live. Okay, Kevin, put it in there. Well, that was 3 times if you were counting. And at that point I thought, Pat might know something I don't know. And I'm certainly not going to tell her she's wrong in public. So I said, okay, Pat, in the hopper, it's going live. So for me, it was 3. What about for you?
Well, for me, I'm going to share my story in a moment and you'll see. However, I do want to put forward for anyone listening, please share in the comments what your experience has been, either yourself or what you've seen happen. Because I promise you, Kevin, in over 20 years of working with senior executives, right to the head of the company, I've seen it done more not at all. They just make a decision and
0
ignore the
times.
word
Yeah.
and it goes. Maybe that's for a valid reason. Maybe it was the right decision. How would I know? However, at most, I've seen people go back and forth maybe once, but not more than that for sure. And so you're an anomaly, and let's see where I sit in this story that I share.
Tell us a story, Jen.
I worked at the City of Toronto for over 20 years, my whole career. The City of Toronto is a large organization. It's over 40,000 employees. I was asked by the head of the City of Toronto, we refer to this person as the city manager. Back in the day, for this story, the person was Joe. I'm asked by Joe to come to his office and give some customized dashboard data on the workforce, create that. And so excitedly, I go to this meeting and I'm accompanied by my director and my manager. And here comes a basic question. Joe, what would you like included in this dashboard, in this data? Here you see the City of Toronto workforce broken out into 2 portions on this pie chart. And there's 2 components, an active workforce and an inactive workforce, and then the total count. So I'm explaining to the city manager, what's the inactive workforce? These are people that are not physically working, but they have a job at the city. They're, for example, maternity leave, sabbaticals, jury duty, sick leave, longer term sick leave, etc. So do you want these people included? And he says, well, yeah, they own a job at the city. So yes, I want them included. I say, are you sure? And he says, yeah, I'm sure. So that's his second answer. And I'm not liking this answer. So I say, well, it's sort of like double counting people. And he gives me this look. Well, on the sidebar here, my director manager,
boss and your boss's boss are also there in addition to the big boss. So
absolutely.
are the bosses giving you the eye?
The first time I got the eyes, like, what are you doing? Questioning. The second time, I got very not happy looks, like, and I think I would have got a kick under the table if they were close enough, but I wasn't, and so I still said, it's sort of like double counting people, and at that, he just kinda sat back and said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "A maternity leave," and those are probably the majority of these inactive, I'm guessing I believe. And I said, "It's obvious, like, if a maternity leave is a year, you're not gonna go without filling that job for a whole year, even if it's 6 months or a couple of months. You backfill the maternity leave, but you have to hold that job for the person on who's on maternity leave to come back to, but you fill the job in the interim." And so the inactive person is the one on mat leave, and the active person is the one you filled it with. That's 2 people in 1 job. And he says, "Oh, well then, no, I don't want that included." And so I am breathing a sigh of relief. Woof. This is great. And basically, that's the story in a nutshell. I went 3 times to go against that because my core said bad decision. And it's a huge, big, bad decision for the head of the organization, Joe, in this case, the city manager, to not have the right count. And we're giving that count all the time. I'm so grateful that the decision changed. And Kevin, I would not have gone another time. 3 times and I'm out too. But I gave it my best shot both times. Know your stuff and don't be scared to defend it and stand your ground and question. I mean, in the most professional, gentle way, not like, "What do you mean? What are you choosing that for? That's wrong." I mean, I don't think I'd ever be saying that to the head of my organization.
So I'm thinking that the secrets here are these. First of all, for advisors like you, like me, know your stuff. Know it so well that you're willing to challenge somebody and say, "Are you sure?" If you're those bosses that were in the room giving her the evil eye, just maybe recognize that your staff person really may know what they're talking about, and that them asking and pushing back a little bit is actually going to save potentially a bad decision. So have a little more support for them and don't give them ask them to explain themselves. And I think that will go better. Decision makers, the senior player, encourage discussions. Like if somebody says, "Are you sure?" rather than saying, "Yes, I'm sure," say, maybe not. Tell me why you're asking that question.
Ask people for what they want. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that from my bosses. Probably every time. Ask them what they want. Don't tell them, ask them. And I think, well, I'm setting them up for failure in a lot of instances because they don't know what they want. So when I go ask those executives, "What do you want?" I get this look like, "Genevieve, you know what I want better than what I know to ask you. So just tell me what you think I should have, and then we start talking." That's how I think it should go. The expert needs to come with a recommendation or 2 or 3, and then embark on a discussion. Just go and ask them. I'm told that often, and I was told that with this head of the organization, Joe. Don't tell him, ask him, and look what happened.
Jen, in case people are thinking that this is a story about data analysis and analytics, I just want to make the point that anytime you're advising someone and want to challenge them, this could be for legal folks, could be regulatory folks, could be any kind of advisor at all, HR folks. This story is not specific. It's about trusted advisors. And it's sort of like a moral imperative for you to speak up and say, "I don't think this is quite the right way to go." And also, it's an imperative to have a relationship with your senior players so that they trust you enough to say, "Well, what do you mean?" on the first time, rather than them getting into a push, 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 pull. So that's my take on this. It's not just about data analytics. It's about any of us who advise, and that we should be brave enough to say, are you sure? Are you sure? It seems like a really good way to ensure that we're doing our duty.
And I love that you said that, Kevin, because they're very particular, as you and I and most people know. Never are you gonna say no, or that's not a good decision, or let them know in any way, shape, or form that you're coming hard, questioning their decision making. It's more like you're presenting an alternative perspective that might shed more light on making a different decision.
Yeah.
And on that note, Kevin, most of the stories that we are going to share about data talk about the success that came from these stories about data, but they really all do apply outside of that world, and they're all seeking excellence in delivering the service you're out to deliver.